Make sure we have audio shared. All right, my face will go right there. And it'll just cover up part of the chat, whatever. Okay, you should be seeing me now, and I should sort of look like I'm looking at the document that we're looking at. So we'll go over this. Actually, let's go over that next. I do want to mention all of the insane things that have happened today because it's been a very busy day. I'm going to do this super quick, just because there's so many things that it's hard to keep up with all of the important updates. And some of these I'll go into more detail when we look at the document. But yeah, I think everybody knows that part 3 is up, and it's also on YouTube now. There is an interview that happened earlier, and then I think the live stream might still be going on, but the interview is over, where a couple of brickheads interviewed Reckless Ben. And I did want to mention something real quick, because I've really been thinking about this interview. Because in the lead-in, I think the guy on the top left is Sean. But either way, the guy on the top left, he leads in with basically like a very like positive, this is a win for. I'm just double checking I just realized that my microphone might have been off. Okay, we're good. he leads in with like a very positive, like, oh, Ben is winning kind of a attitude. I don't remember exactly what he says coming into this, but it's a very stark contrast to the first interviews he did. And he actually says, it's been like a month, but now we've got you on. And when you watch these interviews, you kind of see that. So the guy on the top left, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's Sean, and then the guy in the hat, or the Indian hat, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't follow this channel enough to remember everybody's names, and I feel a little bad. But also, I was not into YouTube before this thing happened. I knew a handful of people. I was talking to CB2 today, and I was struggling to remember the names of some very famous YouTubers like Yahtzee, because I am so disconnected. So anyway, I'm so disconnected. I'm not remembering their names, and I feel a little bit bad, but not a lot, because I have not been a big YouTube fan. I've definitely not been a big Lego collector fan. Actually, not at all. I was very unfamiliar with the whole thing. I only had very small knowledge that minifigures were worth stuff, because I've got kids that like, every time they pick one up, they're hoping it's worth $1 million. Kind of like every time you pick up a rock with a little gold flecks, you're hoping it's made out of gold. As a kid. So every time they pick up a minifig, a little Lego guy, as I would say it, you hope it's worth a lot of money. So I only knew super tiny things about Lego collecting. And so I don't know a lot of these people. But they, you're probably seeing these messages come in. I don't get a lot of Discord messages. I guess you're probably hearing it. I don't think you're seeing it. I don't get a lot of Discord messages, but lately it just depends on the day and where I'm at and everything. But I actually very rarely get a whole lot. And I'm not super responsive on Discord because of that, because it's not my main communication tool. But yeah, so if you're hearing those come in, my apologies. There's so much stuff happening at all times. This has been a crazy story. So okay, just to get to the point here. So they tend to be neutral. They tend to come into this especially neutral. And when we compare this to the interviews, because I think there was 2. I think that when they had Matt on, they interviewed Reckless Ben. Then when they had Eamon on, they interviewed Reckless Ben after. And they tried to stay like super neutral. That's how they got the people on that they got. But I don't think it was neutral per se. From what I am gathering right now, is that they have always been basically in this one view, that they generally have a good experience with the Bricks and Minifigs stores. They generally like the people that they meet. Oops, I clicked page up. And they generally had no experience with corporate, and have now generally had a bad experience with corporate. And that's the neutrality that we're looking at, that they're not going to be jerks. And they're going to try to be fair, but they're going to be fair from the standpoint that it seems like every time that they're being fair from the standpoint of like, well, they kind of like the franchisees, that the people who they like the people who run the stores. And that's interesting because I think that's a different level of neutrality than we normally see, because I didn't see this one coming, this interview. I did check their channel today. I saw that they had an update and I went looking for it, and it was a completely different stream, and I think it was set for another day. And so I did just kind of expect they would have something coming up in the next few days, and I didn't see this stream coming up. So I actually thought that they had kind of moved on, because they have this weird, from my perspective, a weird sense of neutrality of from a different angle. So they don't outright say any of these things. That's just the impression that I got from this interview and the previous interviews. So I just figured that was worth mentioning here, that like, it shouldn't be weird that they were so welcoming when Ben came on this time, since they were trying to be as neutral as possible last time. And I think that it's just because the neutrality is consistent. It's the way they feel seems to be consistent. It's just the events have changed. I was jarred by that at first, but okay. So he, in the interview very early on, Reckless Ben starts talking about a thing about a subpoena. We're going to talk about that because the timeline really matters for that. But he also has a Patreon video where he goes over the same thing. And if you haven't seen part 3, which I'm sure everybody has seen by now, if they haven't watched it directly, they've probably watched a good part of it on somebody's reaction. So anyway, there's stuff about the subpoena. I'm going to be talking spoilers. So I guess I should mention that. I don't do race cars, but I do spoilers. I said do. Okay. Oh, so the full conversation. I think this is a fairly important one. I wanted to capture this date, but I didn't see it on here, so I didn't do it. But the Gormans released the full conversation with Kai, and it's exactly as they described. There's really no surprises to it. The only thing I was surprised about is that I didn't. This is an unfair judgment, but I had always assumed that Ben Gorman probably had a temper. And if you watch this, he absolutely does not. He's like the most patient person in the world. It's crazy. I can't imagine being that patient. I feel a little impatient knowing that somebody can be that patient. That is the only thing surprising from this. If you've been following them, if you haven't heard the story, this is insane. This call is absolutely insane. It's just the things that they say, and what Kai is asked in several times, he comes back with just these nonsensical answers. That is another example of if a corporate employee ever behaved this way, there would be an uproar like that. This alone, if this call had ever leaked for Coca-Cola or McDonald's or KFC, had a call like this leak, there would be firings, there would be a CEO step down, and there would be an uproar. We're in the Cracker Barrel sign changed, the post world where the Cracker Barrel sign changed back, where when the airlines try to sweep your complaints under the rug, people get upset. Like that's the current world. And the amount that the corporate headquarters are not being taken to task that any other corporation would have been taken to task is very alarming. So if you did not hear any of the interviews with the Gormans, and you listen to this, you will be absolutely shocked at the contents of this call. But if you've heard their interviews, it's exactly what they say. There's no deviation at all. So you've probably heard you've heard them describe the whole thing. Oh yeah, I got to be on the Toy Bounty Hunters again. That was a lot of fun. We were going over the interview with as the next thing. So Ben Gorman had interviewed Reckless Ben, but this was like a month ago or possibly even longer. I estimated it at somewhere around May 30th. But I think it was possibly May 29th or 28th. I was having trouble placing it because I'm having trouble finding the exact dates that the Patreon posts were made. Because it seems like there's like one of them was removed, and it feels like maybe some of the YouTube dates are like when the private link was created, or what's it called, the unlisted link is created is not the same thing as when the public link is created, if that's how it was released, because that's how part 3 was released. Because I wasn't, I was not on his Patreon, obviously, but I wasn't even plugged into the story when part 1 came out. So like I came into this because of a community note that led me to, okay, yeah, sure, I'll give it a watch. But they do. The only other thing here worth mentioning is so Brian Mansell has a band, and they talk about it and they link to it. And like I said, this is like this is like a month old, little over a month old interview. So I guess this has been sitting on this link to Spotify has been there for a while. And that's another thing I was talking about today, just having a random side conversation of how Spotify and services like YouTube have a different discovery. In YouTube, you don't want old things. And in Spotify, you only want old things. And what constitute olds is different per user. And so it has to figure out what you mean by old. Or your relevant is old, really old to someone else. Anyway, very interesting stuff. I actually don't know enough to talk about this next thing, which is the police officer in the Provo case. All I know is there is a case where she was sued for a wrongful death. I found this link. This actually was I think it was tagged in this post, and it had a link to what appeared to be a real case, specifically talking about her. Everything seemed to check out. So the case exists. The basic facts of the case seem to be the same, which is that there was an overdose and she didn't handle it well. And that led to the wrongful death suit. But I didn't know enough to go through it. And there's people who have analyzed this big time that I just haven't got to them yet. So I plan on getting to those when I can. But there is so much going on. And there's another post on Reddit about the Provo case. You can go in and see that. And then, yeah, new memes. Some Google Trends on, I know Google is a dirty word right now, so search trends on the terminology. I think this was Amen, has spiked, and it seems like it's significantly, or say it's a good bit higher than it was at the release of a previous video. It's probably going up as we see more. Speaking of Amen, so this Amen suit isn't complete without a McNecktie, or would it be a McNecktie? But it's just hilarious. Everybody's been commenting on that. News Nation did an interview, and fair warning, there literally is a jump scare at the end where Chris Cuomo just kind of like zooms in and goes, "Hey there!" It's really kind of funny. But he's a lot of people didn't like his interview with Ben, not that long ago. So it's also a little bit of like, whoa, wait, you got someone else to do the interview, which is cool, but it's kind of weird. Like that might give people the wrong impression if he shows up at the end. So there's definitely a jump scare. And one of the animators put out a video. I'm just trying to get through this fairly quickly, so I will apologize to everybody. I'm kind of doing a quick pass by too. And then Sheldon did a commentary on part 3. I got about halfway through this. I really want to go back through this because there's actually some really cool information here. I just haven't had the opportunity to dissect it. One of the funny things is he kind of points out like, oh, I actually made it in there. I thought that was pretty funny because it seemed like it seemed like he would have a lot of more firsthand knowledge because he was there when a lot of that was filmed. And it's kind of funny that I was joking with some other folks that Sheldon is showing up in the chats and is as much of a fan as other fans. And that's actually, it's been a pretty endearing thing. So this is a fun one. I will get through it and dissect it when I can. It's so unfortunate the amount of content and that one of the things I want to do is make that content easier to consume by giving some text updates. And that means being able to get through the longer streams and whatnot to be able to give those updates. So it's getting a little bit harder to do as time goes on. And then the joke about the search trends. There is, yeah. I mean, this is news. I haven't really posted about it, but Echo Base Network has I think they called it an investigation series coming up, and they are teasing that there's a lot of big information in it, and they are confirming things. Like I had a question on if the organization of the franchisees, which I forget the name of, like IA BAMF or something like that. Whatever that organization is, I had a question of how many actually were signed up because it sounded like it was a lot less than the numbers that were being passed around. Well, they got confirmation that it's actually a lot, and I don't think they revealed the actual number, but I was guessing it was around 10, but no, it's probably closer to 100, which is really cool that they have that information. But we'll see what comes out of it. Yeah, and then a handful of other videos, handful of other things that have come down. CB2 is actually going through an issue with his YouTube channel, so he is updating content, but it's a little bit slower now because he's like fighting with YouTube at the moment. So he's got kind of a BS situation going on, and he has a video out on it, but that's another thing that's currently going on. I'm really hoping he gets this figured out because he's got some plans and he talks about them in his video. Okay, so then I think where I'll end on this, I know there's more, but where I'll end on this is the interview with the Gormans has tons of important information. So I did go through and I put out a bunch of comments about it, but it answers so many questions that we have. Now, a lot of it is they say, so like they claim or they say, like you just assume everything about the interview is well, they claim this, but the things that they're saying are super consistent with what happened. So there's a question about the layaway, and she explains, like, she just kind of off to the side mentions something about her process, and it's like, wait, so CoffeeZilla's issue was completely moot. If yes, that's what she claims, but also there was no reason to have there's a handful of things that are pointed out as problems that there's no reason to call problems if there's even a 10% chance that their explanation is true, then it's not a problem. And there's all kinds of little things there. She even goes over the freezer bags of minifigures, which it's interesting, but it's not as crazy as everybody thought it was. And she goes over the number, the valuation, and when you start to hear like, oh, like it's being characterized as a black and white issue, and it's not, and that's generally all of the big reveals here. Like, it's being treated wrong, and once you take a step back and go, oh, it took 3 months for that thing to happen, and we all thought it happened in a night. Oh, okay, that makes more sense that this started here and ended here. And I talked about the Monte Carlo thing, where if you view estimations as a spectrum instead of a single number, you're way more accurate. And that's the kind of thing here where like everybody was assuming a thing was a black and white one or zero, and they're like, no, this is a thing that happened. And like I think they mentioned something about how they were trying to handle the inventory, and one thing doesn't exactly work, so they kind of adopt it to this other thing. And they're like, and that's why this was so much easier. And so we did it this way. And then she admits, she's like, well, maybe there was a better way to do it. But, this is how we did business. Like, this is how we had to do it. It's very interesting. I think it really wasn't because they mentioned that, like, this is like a really important interview. And they're right. This answers tons of questions I had. And I also went big into the tech piece of this, but I'm not going to do that on this stream. But in my commentary, I went big on the tech issues because I have... to put it into a pun, I am not going to be cutting any slack for the stupidity of the tech stuff. There is a large number. There's a Google of problems. Anyway, okay, so those are the updates. There's more videos here and there, but I wanted to get through those quickly because the reason I really wanted to jump on a stream because there's so much information coming out, and I don't want to distract people from those that are better, because I don't want to do original research. I really don't. But there are people that are doing that and finding things like they're getting some public documents that are hard to find, including things on like that lawsuit, um, or the wrongful death lawsuit. There's people that are gathering real hard facts out there, and I don't want people to be distracted from that. But I found some things. I don't not really found, but I did some things, and I think they're extremely helpful because there's so much little confusions here and there that I started. In various posts, I've started keeping timelines, and part of that is because there's so many weird little things. So a question, just from this screen: when was this filmed? And it's funny because there are certain things that happen where you can look at the length of Ben's hair. I was going to say mullet, but he actually doesn't really have a mullet until recently. The length of Ben's hair can give you an estimation of when something happens. And as silly as that is, it's actually a tell. There's also the period where he was sick. He was showing physical signs of being sick, so you can kind of date things around when he's sick. So there's a handful of little things here that are tells on pictures. But part of that is like, well, at a certain point, he's in Utah. Well, why was he in Utah? And we're actually going to find out through this timeline that they went to and from different places a lot. And in the videos, he talks about going to and from Oregon a lot in part one. But in part two, he doesn't talk about going to and from Utah, so many times. The only thing we know is they went to see corporate in part one. So they went to Utah at least once. And we know that they went to Oregon a bunch of times. So what I started to do was like, okay, well, when did this thing happen and when did that thing happen? And you have to keep in mind that the dates on the glasses are wrong. And they're so wrong that they are super confusing. So when I first looked at the story, I thought that the store closed down in 2019 or 2020, whatever the earliest date that shows up on the glasses is. I thought that's when the store closed down, and that this has been like a 6-year issue. And it took me probably a week to figure out that, those dates are completely wrong. It's not just that a couple times they're wrong. They're always wrong. So there's actually another question I have on dates that we'll get to. But so what I did is I went ahead and created a timeline of everything from part 3, or everything that touches part 3 that has a date, and anything that is already a huge major thing that has a date. And I put them all together in order. And there's only one where the actual time of day matters. There's 2 where the time of day matters, but in the second one, it doesn't matter at all. It just verifies when an arrest happened. It actually, there's nothing being contested. But I went through and I looked at all the dates and I put them all into a big timeline. So this is my big Excalidraw timeline. And this is the tool I was talking about before that I think is awesome. I think Excalidraw, first of all, is an excellent name. But if you master Excalidraw, you will be a king author. Yeah. So we will go ahead and start looking at this. Well, before we go to the beginning, I just want to point out how crazy this is. This was a thing that got me thinking that part 3 cannot be understood without extracting out some dates. So everybody is up in arms about, as they joke about, Russian Fork Police Department. So American Fork Police Department, those events happen on March 8th, March 9th, March 10th, and March 11th. I didn't grab anything from the 10th because it wasn't relevant to like the part 3 clips. But there is March 10th stuff. Those are the dates where all of the crazy things that have been analyzed and everybody's talking about, we're going to call we need the civil rights thing. That's where Sheldon's GoFundMe comes in. This is the main focus of all that. What's absolutely crazy is part 3 takes place 6 days before. At least the most significant portions of it take place 6 days before the first interaction with the police in American Fork. And I think that's not obvious as you're watching part 3. It seems like part of it is meant to be way before, and part of it is meant to be either after or around the same time. But this is where this got big for me, because you see in these the body cam footage, March 2nd. Oh, wait, March 2nd? I know something that happened in March. All of the rests, but they happened later, and that's where this whole idea came out. So I wanted to show that before I get into the actual timeline. Um, and I just want to talk through it. I don't really have like a narrative for this or a goal that I'm trying to get to. I just wanted to talk through some events, because there's some things where when you put them in context of the dates, all of a sudden something is off. And I did tease that some of this is going to make people a little angry in the wrong way. And none of this is meant to say that none of this is meant to disparage, oh, we've been told a story and there's something wrong with the story. What this is meant to say is that there's so many things that happen that don't just corroborate what people say, that they also corroborate things that people are like, they answer questions people are worried about. But we will run into a few things that are like, oh, so he paraphrased and it's kind of lame that he paraphrased. Or we're going to run into something where it's like, oh, that sucks that was edited in that order. I really wish he didn't do that. And that was a little upsetting to me, because once I looked at some things, I was like, I really wish he would have. I really wish they wouldn't have done that. But none of this is like, aha. There's no aha that like, oh, Ben did something wrong. It's just with my OCD brain. There's so many little just like annoying things where it's like you see a clip, and then you see another clip that happened 5 minutes earlier, and it's just weird. It's a weird storytelling thing, and it messes with my head. So maybe nobody's going to be angry. I'm just OCD. Maybe that's really what I want to say. But there's one thing here that really, really annoyed me. Okay, so just to get started, there's things we already know. So 2024, November 14th is when the termination happened. I actually did not grab a date of the phone call with Kai, because this Ring camera here is the phone call while they're at the store. They have another phone call with him, which I believe is earlier in the day, but I don't remember the exact timeline for that one. So I didn't capture that one, and I didn't see it on the video, so I didn't add it in here. But we know on November 14th, the hostile takeover happens, and we get the recording of the phone call. We see the U-Haul, which I didn't capture that picture. And we get a bunch of pictures of stock in the back, which is dated to the 14th. And I actually noticed something else. Is it called exfil? Let me look at it. I'm just gonna get the thing. Right? I think it might be called exif. Yeah, exif data. So phones, when you take pictures with phones, it depends on what your default settings are and everything, but it can end up tracking your location. You can share pictures that have your location on it. Wait, that's crazy. What do you mean that happens? Well, I'm going to say a phrase that's going to let everybody know, oh yeah, this has been going on for a while. Burger King foot lettuce. The story of Burger King foot lettuce is that a guy in a Burger King somewhere, I think in Ohio, I don't remember exactly where, Ohio, Illinois, somewhere Midwesty, took a picture of himself standing in a bucket of lettuce, which I'm assuming they were about to throw out. And Reddit got upset, or 4chan or somebody got upset, and they immediately located where it was, because the EXIF data on the picture was valid. And so they saw the location. And so it was close enough that they were able to narrow it down, I think, to 3 Burger Kings. And it was like within 2 hours. I don't remember the exact time. Maybe it was 4 hours, 5 hours. It was very soon. They call the manager, and the manager figures out who it is and supposedly fires them. So the Burger King, and suppose, I think there was an update that something happened to the guy. I seem to remember there was some like weird pop culture thing that popped up talking about him. I don't remember what it was, but EXIF data that's what EXIF data is. It is extra data that gets added to your phone or to your pictures, that it depends on what the device wants to write, but it can take a whole bunch of things, including locations. I don't like that they keep saying metadata, because the EXIF data is more technically correct, And it might be metadata, but metadata is really kind of like I've got a picture on my desktop and I right click it, and or I've got a song on my desktop and I right click and it tells me who the who recorded it and when was it recorded. You can type in metadata, and it depends on what you're talking about. So if I'm making an MP3, I can type in the metadata. However, there's other pieces of metadata which probably is more like file information or file headers that you can't edit, like the creation time and the edit time, which is determined by the operating system. You can play with it, you can screw with it, but it usually, my understanding for a lot of different formats, if you screw with it, you leave tracks. And for like JPEGs and this is JPEG for pings and a handful of them, that header data that exists at the beginning is like special to their format. So use the extension to figure out what does the header look like. There's a bunch of rules on how to read the header, and that's where that data is saved. It's not really the metadata, but you could potentially say that. That could be how you describe it. If you are on Windows and you open up details, you allow detail. That's what I'm talking about. Like that's usually header data, but it might also show you some additional things. Like if you're highlighted on a movie or a MP3, it might show you metadata. Now, what I noticed is this appears to be EXIF data on the bottom. It's telling you information about the camera. So that's probably not normal metadata. That's probably the EXIF data. But it doesn't tell you the timestamps, and it doesn't tell you where. I was actually kind of hoping that the original JPEGs from the phone would have additional data. These may actually be them, and this might actually be the data I was hoping for, but not every device is saving everything. I am very far from an expert on EXIF data. To the point, I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it. It might be pronounced differently. But that is the general tech piece that's been bugging me for a while. So while I was doing this, I did get a capture of this. I don't even remember where this was from. This might have been in one of the parts, or I might have grabbed this from another video. But I just grabbed a quick shot because I saw a date and I wanted to keep it. I might have played part 1 to find this. I don't remember. One of the weird things is I think in part 1 this timestamp is missing, but in a lot of other areas you get to see it. And it's possible that in part of part 1 you see this timestamp, and in many parts of part 1 you don't. I just remember it's hard to see that timestamp. So I don't actually remember where I got these 2 screenshots from. But this is, I did mark these down as like, okay, what are they the most relevant to? So it's either part 1, 2, or 3, or another thing like a body cam leak. So most of these are relevant to parts, but some of them are special. Okay, so then we got additional information from part 3. So this is the next thing in chronological order that was in the part 3 video that was like trackable. And that is the emails from Brian. I put these below the images, so anything below it is the description. So the email from Brian or Brian's lawyer, I wasn't 100% sure because the actual who sent it is completely blurred out. Although I am going to get into one of those things that I think is going to make people a little bit angry. So this is in response to an email sent back to them from Adam Brimhall. And my understanding is Adam Brimhall is one of the executives and potentially an owner, a part owner. But I don't know anything about him. I just know that I've heard that here and there, so don't quote me on that. I have seen his name on the disclosure documents, but I wasn't paying attention, so I don't know who he is or what he does. But he is in this email chain. And so they got a response from him, and I think because I know Brandon Bess is CC'd on this, I think potentially there's communications from him as well. But this happens on November 27th. So 2024, November 27th, 2024. And I'm going to make people mad when I say this, but if you are going to do, quote, European dates, putting the smallest part first is dumb. Put the large part first, because then you can sort things. Mathematically, it's helpful to have the large part of your date first. It is almost never helpful to have the small part of your date first, unless you're going to skip the rest of it. Like, hey, I have that scheduled for the 3rd. Well, I don't even need the big part of the date. So I put my big parts of my dates first. And I am very staunch on that. So November 27th, they're responding to it. So we're not 100% sure when this top part of the email where they're asking for basically, how are we supposed to get the stuff back? So it's not clear in this screenshot when this happens, but we know it's in response to something on the 27th, and it's implied in the video it happens the same day. And then there's a follow-up to something that happens on the 27th, but it's unknown when it happened, but it appears to be a different email, because the one they responded to here happened at 1:16, and this one happened at 2:28. And this is the thing I mentioned, people I think are going to be kind of mad at, so he did blur out almost everything in the video, but he left some frames open. So again, like, maybe I'm just being nitpicky. It's not, oh no, Ben is wrong. It's not a big bombshell, but it is really annoying to me. So he did leave some frames with some stuff that was not blurred out. Now, I don't know that it was. I mean, it's possible it wasn't intended to be blurred out. It's just maybe that was just part of the effect he was going for. But there's a lot of things where the blur doesn't cover everything, especially on the first couple frames. And I don't, like, that happens. Sometimes people accidentally flash their email when they're streaming. So I know that happens, but I'm still going to nitpick it. Okay, so then there's a follow-up on an unknown date. Now, in the video, in part 3, this is coming from a conversation how Brian never got a response. There's actually 2 little chains here where that's like that. But you'll notice they're responding to a different email. So this is what I was talking about before. I think the paraphrasing is super confusing, and potentially makes it like very hard to track, what information we're looking for. So this follow-up here is a completely unknown date because it doesn't include any of it. And this is where he's like, and then the lawyers are kind of like, you haven't responded in a while. You see the 16 days. And what's funny about this is you can tell that they found these emails by searching bricks and minifigs. And so it's highlighting the words bricks and minifigs. So this is like a Google search for stuff. And then they searched on screen for those words. So I just thought that was funny. But yeah, this one, there's no way to tell when this happened, but it's like, oh, so 16 days later. And then there's yet another one where they finally get a response. It's like, we consider this matter closed. There's actually 2 things that were not blurred out on this. I don't remember what the 2 were. And I think they were shown in part 1. I think this was also shown before. But this is just things that had dates or were related to things that have dates that you can track. Okay, so it's I guess it's a different email chain that I have a big concern with, but this one here, we're not sure when this happened. I guess we're assuming this was 16 days after the 27th. So 2024, 11/27, 15 days later would put us at December 13th? No, December 12th? So I think December 12th, 2024, I think is where this would put us at. But one of the things to point out about this is this exchange happened very soon after the store was closed, or the hostile takeover happened. One of the things, this is what I was saying, like, this will reveal that some of the stuff that people have been criticizing is not valid criticism. So there is, like, I think there's some, like, concern over stuff that that Ben, like, paraphrases, where he's like, he'll say something like, no, Ben, or Brian did ask for it, but, like, okay, when, where, how? And so we'll hear one side say, oh, he didn't come back for a while. Well, we know that this angry email exchange happened 13 days later. Like 2 weeks later. This is 2 weeks later. that's important. And I think this is missed like completely lost in translation. Um, it is very soon after that this, and I'm just going to triple check here. Yeah, November 27th, 2024. So that is in response. We don't know the exact date of all of the communications, but we know the dates that we absolutely know for a fact are the 27th. So these communications are happening on or around the 27th, and potentially up to 16 days later. Or I guess possibly this final response could have come later than 16 days later. But yeah, on around that time near the Christmas season of 2024. And so there's this implication that, like, he came back months later and the Gormans didn't tell him that there was a problem. Well, he knew there was a problem immediately. 2 weeks is not long. And what we've learned from interviews is it was supposed to be a couple days later. I think I've heard next day or 2 days later. I think is consistently what I've heard. But I did not write down exactly. So let's just assume, a few days later. Between 1 and 3, 1 and 4-ish days later is when he was supposed to get paid his next royalty. This is not long after that. He should have known he didn't get his check. And then pretty soon after, he comes a knocking. There is no discrepancy. There in a version of the story, there is a discrepancy. Well, the dates do not show a discrepancy. And so I think this is being lost in translation that, yeah, Brian came looking for his stuff pretty soon. And my understanding is that some of these emails or all of these emails from Brian's behalf were sent from a lawyer, but I just couldn't tell for sure. The only indication of that is when this one name was not blurred out, and I think that's was intended to be. So potentially somebody named Eric is involved, and obviously Eric is not Brian. So I think these are coming from lawyers. So that means not only did he come looking, he knew that he needed help very soon. And I'm just triple checking here. I just want to, like, 2024, 2024, 2024. Like, it's this happens late at night, and we say late at night. I think this is going to be somewhere around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Is when this hostile takeover is happening. Now I don't know how long they were in the store, but they did say in an interview that Brandon or BB shows up 30 minutes before close, and I looked up what closing was, and I think closing was 6 o'clock, so this would have been 5:30. It's possible closing was 5:30, and this would have been 5 that he first shows up. But and it is November, so it's going to be winter. But when does the sun go down? I don't know. But it's obviously dark outside, so it seems like there's a time. Hold on. It's in PST. It's not GMT or UTC. I gotta do the math real quick. 7. Yeah, it's 7:10. Almost 7:11. Because minus 12. Yeah. Yeah. So this is 7 o'clock. I know it looks later than that, but this is 7 o'clock. And so this is the end of the day. The next day is the 15th. So what does that make that? 12 days later? I mean, so I'm sorry. I'm really harping on that, but I do feel like that got lost in translation, and it completely blows away any criticism of, like, oh, we didn't show the date, or Ben didn't show the dates, or we didn't get to understand the dates. Yeah, extrapolating this has been super helpful for me understanding. And I am missing stuff because I did not go through this exercise for parts 1 and 2. I went through this exercise for part 3 and some of the videos that were surrounding it, and then some of the documents that were extremely important to the context of part 3. I did not go through the rest of them, and I know that we're going to find additional dates in those. But for now, this is what I captured. And as I see things, I'll probably keep updating the document. This is like, I don't know, this is how this is how my brain works. Okay, so the next meaningful event that we get but related to part 3 is not until 2025. It's almost a year later, and this is in October. Now, something that I think should be really, like, understood here is a lot of the stuff that we know of dates happen in December of 2025. There is actually a date here that I didn't bother to look up, but I guess I could look it up. I'll do it right now. We know that he found out about the story in Burning Man 2025. Um, so between August 24th and September 1st. Okay, so if at the last possible date of Burning Man, now I thought the 2025 one was the one that was delayed. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. I don't care that much. But let's just assume the latest is September 1st, or we could pick a week later, just for just to pick a very generous date. So let's just say September 7th. That means about a month later, a little more than a month later, is when he gets a response when he emails corporate, and this is in part three. He emails corporate to ask um, about basically about Brian's situation, but I think he's specifically asking for the inventory list because at this point, and the way we understand this is he was told a story from Brian and given evidence, and he seemed to be very friendly and agree with it. And then he was told a story from the Mancells and given evidence, and he seemed to be pretty friendly and agree with it. And so what's in dispute here is, did he ever ask for things from BAM corporate, and was he friendly and agreeable? And what we see in part three is how he's basically trying to show he did try to reach out to them for information, and he kept getting weird behavior. And I would call inappropriate behavior that would make you think that corporate would step in and actually do something about it. And so that's part of why people get upset. Sorry, I just want to clean up my stuff here in case I need to look anything else up. Okay, yeah. So this is a follow up. So there, in part three, he talks about having to email several times, and eventually he gets a response. He emailed an email address on the corporate website. It's not clear, at least in the information that I gathered, when he started this email chain. We just know that he got his response on October 22nd. So October 22nd, 2025, which I think that's fairly surprising. The remaining things that we're going to see happen in December, or the things that this is in relation to happened in December. He confronts, I think confront is a good word. He confronts the CEO of BAM Franchising on, I don't know what day in December. We'll see it in a second. In December, somewhere early December. And so this happens a couple months before. But it is interesting because this is the jump here. Brian has been trying to get things figured out, and we know somewhere around August, September is when Reckless Ben takes over. Or not takes over is probably the wrong word, but takes on the case. And he's trying to be helpful. And you can see in some of these, like, it kind of looks like he was just trying to be helpful. And I've had this is a thing that's been irking me since I've seen part three, of like, if you're going to do something like this, why not register like a fake email address, or have a burner email address that you only use for certain like things, so there's like nothing in it. And I say that because there's a lot of things that you might interact with that will lead to spam, or potentially lead to like, you don't want to be registered under that. And I will give a great example: Facebook. It is a so annoying to get an account to work your, like, oh, it's not here. You're like a VR. Like if you have one of those VR headsets, you kind of have to put it on your primary account and everything. So if you have to do something very specific, like I once signed up for Instagram to ask a developer, an old video game developer that doesn't do that anymore and hasn't for like 2 decades, a question. And by the end of it, it's like, yeah, you can't have an account. What? So I had to try again. And so destroying my ability to sign up for something on my primary account would have sucked. But learning the process through a quote burner account, like creating an alias on something, or an additional account on something to go through a process, is not unusual, and it's not a bad thing. especially if you're trying to separate business and personal use, like GitHub. You have your business email sign up for your business GitHub, and your personal email sign up for your personal GitHub. It's not unusual to do something like that. So I was in a lot of this. I'm kind of like, wait, he probably emailed this with that, Gmail account that everybody's up in arms about. So it is a little confusing to me not to use a quote burner account for something like that. So anyway, we know in October this happened, and then we're going to go to November of 2025. So a full year after the events of some of the previous events. Trying to think through this real quick. I guess it wouldn't have been an entire year before Brian reached out to Ben. I'm just looking at the months again. I think I overestimated, because it's like, depending on where you put it. So you put it in August, we're talking like less than 9 months between movement 1 and movement 2. And I don't know how involved in recording and stuff that the Reckless Ben crew was in October. So like I said, there's probably more information in the other videos that would help put context here, but I just don't have it. So it kind of looks like this is the I'm being helpful moment. And this may not be like full filming and stuff. So this is also a weird case here. There's a point where in part 3, Reckless Ben starts saying that specifically Eamon, the CEO, was really upset, and I think that was paraphrasing, but he corporate got really upset that Brian had created a Facebook post, and so he talks about this Facebook post, and specifically he's trying to point out it's been a very long time that he reached out no later than 11/27. And it seems like this is after other attempts. It seems like this should not be the first date that he reached out for help. So this is a year and a day later. And he makes a really good point. Like, why be upset that after he gets no answer, or he gets the runaround, and he eventually gets a message that says, we're not giving you your Lego back. I wrote it as threatening letter. I don't know if they have a legal department. That's why I wrote possibly from legal department, because we know that they pay lawyers, but do they have a legal department? I don't know. Is it Kai that writes these? Who knows? But if you've watched what I was talking about earlier with the Gormans released the audio with Kai, that's a little bit funny to think about, like that he would, because there's all these moments where he's like, well, no, I don't have the authority to change the contract, and he's like trying to weasel out of that question, and to think that they may not have a legal department. I don't know. I'm not the only one that has asked the question, did they grow too fast? And now they have all these problems because they grew too fast and they don't have the infrastructure to handle it. That's one of the things. Like, you may have gotten away with one person wearing two hats as HR and something else. Like, maybe they do accounts receivable and the HR, or maybe they're like the CEO also does the HR, or whatever. And then you grow to a certain size, all of a sudden you need HR people, and then all of a sudden you need a accounts receivable and an accounts payable, and all of a sudden you need a marketing department and a legal department, and they fight with each other. Where before it was one person, and they probably made mistakes, but they were pretty agreeable, and now it's two people and they don't get along. And maybe you get bigger, and now it has to be 5 people in marketing and 1 person in legal, and he has too much work to do because the marketing people are driving him crazy. Those are the kinds of like soft skill problems that you run in when you grow too fast. And there's all kinds of hard skill problems that you hit. So I'm not the only person to ask, did they scale too fast? And so that's a very fair question. Do they even have, like, where did this come from? And what department sent it? And a smaller follow-up question of, like, do they have the authority to say something like that? And that's a good question. But That's probably not a relevant question, but it is a good question. Um, okay, so I guess they got mad, and I skimmed through this. I just want to double check that this doesn't have any other information in it. Yeah, November 28th, 2025. Breaks Minifigs and Kaiser's owned. Oh, geez, that is pretty. That's pretty heavy. The cops won't do anything. They stole an 83-year-old's Lego collection. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's why I'm glad I zoomed in here. Worth over $100,000. And there is a quote in one of the press releases that he said exactly $100,000, but this is a clear as day thing where he said over $100,000. So he didn't say exactly $100,000, and he doesn't believe it's 97 or 94 or whatever number was come up. And it was meant to help pay for his grandchildren's college. They admitted to having stolen property in the store, but will not return it. The owner, his partner, and the manager are all in on it. Okay, yeah. So this kind of reads like an angry review with big accusations. So I guess I could see like it is strong language. I didn't pick that up when I was skimming through it before. That's very strong language. But it's been a year, and they definitely did not give him the value that he was owed. And I'm saying that as neutral as possible. Okay, so this is where we're gonna jump to the next thing that happens. If you haven't seen part 3, this blank space right here is a lot of stuff, but there's no valid timestamps. The only valid timestamp from what fills in the blank is this footage of their like lobby. So this there's a lot that happens in this white space. So basically, they go to confront. I think confront is the right word. They go to ask for the spreadsheet or the Legos back. And they I think they do go back and forth. I didn't fully follow the flow of the conversation, but this is the video we keep seeing in part 3 where it's Reckless Ben and Sheldon, and they're both wearing the glasses and they're both recording, and you get the part where the CEO ruins the word again, where he's like he doesn't say anything, and then again he just says, "Who where are you here?" And they say what they say, and then he goes again. What do you mean again? There is no thing that you're repeating. Stop saying that word. You're ruining it for the rest of us. So anyway, they get into this this argument in the hallway, and afterwards, the CEO calls the police. This is where we get into some weirdness. And I just wanted to go over this because as it's presented in the video, they have the conversation in the hallway. The moment they leave, they're asked to leave, and there's some details in that. I'm not going to go into the details there, but they are eventually told, leave right now or I'm calling the police. And then they leave, and they're going in the elevator. And in Sheldon's commentary, he says something like, Ben said, well, that went well, and he laughed. So they're like laughing in the elevator. At least that's how I understood the commentary. But they have footage that CEO walks in, and you can still see Ben and Sheldon through the windows. And he is calling what appears to be the police. And then it cuts immediately to this body cam footage. And this body cam footage is them like basically fishing for charges. So I went looking for it because you can see in this lobby footage, and I don't think he meant to keep the file names. I think this was a mistake. I think he did intend to crop these out. But anyway, you can see the date and time. And so this would be 10:48 a.m. This actually might be when he first walks out. I don't remember exactly when these happened, but I do know that the call to the police is captured in another document. Let's see if I can find it. The exact time of the call is captured here. So 11:19 is when the call happened. So that screenshot we had must have been him answering the door. So I think he walks out to the door at 10:48. That doesn't sound right. Because then it's only like 20 minutes. and I thought that they were going on for 45 minutes. I don't know. Now I'm a little confused on the timing. Because here's where we get into the question. So if he calls the police, then why do the police answer at 3:36 p.m.? No, I think this actually starts at like 3:29. So it's in obviously military time. So I went and checked. I'm like, it was at UTC. What is UTC? Well, UTC 1536 is 8:36 a.m. And even uh, well, I guess at that time of year, UTC and GMT are the same. So it doesn't matter if it's UTC without daylight savings, or it's GMT, which might include daylight savings. Usually includes daylight savings. Um, I love the comment. There's a what is the name of that channel? Number File? I think it's called Number File. He's doing a thing on time, and at one point he's like, "Oh, during wartime in World War II, England was on +2, and it didn't match Greenwich Mean Time, despite having Greenwich." And I thought that was the funniest thing. So for some reason, wartime was weird, but and that actually can matter if you convert times historically. It's a thing programmers run into from time to time. But anyway, I just checked, like, is this UTC? Well, it can't be, because UTC 1536 is way before any of this even happens. So I just included this. I don't know what the what the smiles are for and stuff. Maybe I think it's possible that this website just doesn't like Utah. I don't know what the smiles are about. But I just wanted to include that to be like, when you want accuracy in programming, you go with UTC. And then when you want users to feel comfortable, you show local time. And so you store in UTC and you convert. And yes, it does. So the date all of a sudden matters, because you have to know if it's daylight savings or not. But and that actually, there's little things here and there. But for generally, yeah, you care about the date now and whatever. But you generally store in UTC and then convert to local time. But it actually looks like these are in local time with 24-hour clocks, military time. And so and it's possible military time and 24-hour clocks are not exactly the same thing, but it's basically the same thing. So 24-hour clocks in local time. So that means there is a gap. So what happened? I think he called and he got a someone who took his information down, and then she called him back, and that's when he reported everything. And this is one of the things that made me very frustrated, because when I first watched this, and I actually said this on a Toy Bounty Hunter stream, like, I was so mad that he lied immediately that I shouted, and my 5-year-old was walking by. He's like, "What did he lie about?" And I was like, "He lied." And she goes, "What did he lie about?" I was like, "He lied right away." I think there was time between him walking in and the actual conversation. And I think it's really unfortunate that is not well, like, it's kind of left unsaid. Now, this time doesn't look right, because my understanding of how much time they spent outside of the door doesn't match up between. Now, there is well, it says, 10:48 until 11:18. Like, there's a range. Am I just doing this wrong? That's 30 minutes? Yeah, I thought they were out there for like 45 minutes or more. All right, I'm getting the calculator. No, that won't work. Okay, so 11 plus 18. Can I have two calculators? Yes, I can. There we go. And then we want 10 times 6600 plus 48. So minus 648. Oh, okay. So exactly 30 minutes. Okay, so maybe this is accurate. I thought they were out there for longer than 30 minutes. I thought we had seen, we had reason to believe it was over 45 minutes. Okay. Well, maybe it was only 30 minutes, and this is accurate here. Because I think the end of this footage, you see him walk in, and so that means that the conversation was less than 30 minutes, but what, 30 seconds less? I don't know. But that's a little weird. I that that yeah, that, like I said, this is probably nitpicky. I feel weird because I thought that was a longer conversation. Um, so yeah, then the actual call happens sometime later, and so that she must have, and this is just assuming, she must have had to take his number and call him back. So anyway, there's a little bit more to this. So there are two things presented during this call, and I think, well, I guess there's a few things presented. Like, he says that they threatened to burn down the building, and he's like, well, we had the raw footage, and we didn't threaten to burn down the building. That's like a main thing here. But the next thing they talk about is fishing for charges and telling him that it's not extortion. It's presented in this order, and I have this written here. It's presented out of order. So this is the one I thought would make everybody upset, but maybe I'm just being nitpicky. So she tells him no extortion code at 15:48, assuming that's 3:48, and that this is accurate time. And the dates are the same. It's all December 10th. So assuming that happened at 3:48, this clip is played first, and then I think Ben says something, and then it comes back, and it plays this clip next, and that happens at 15:31. And I'm pretty sure he like slows it down and then plays it again, and then so that's why I took so many pictures. But there's this section where she's fishing for crimes that starts at 10:31. It might be 10:30, or I'm sorry, not 10:30. I'm sorry, 3:30 or 3:31, and then continues for a couple minutes, right around 3:33, 3:34. And so this is where she's fishing for, maybe it's this aggravated commercial obstruction. How many, did you ask him to leave multiple times? I misspelled multiple times. Misspelled that. All right. I just wanted to make sure I got the latest thing saved. Okay, so that's one of the cool things is you just press Control S and you save the file, and it is a little annoying. You have to keep picking the file name every time, but it lets you it's very quick to get this going and share. It's just such a cool whiteboarding app. Okay, so yeah, this is where they're fishing around for a crime, and it is displayed out of order, and that really irked me. And after I got done with it, I'm like, that's annoying. And I thought, you know what, people are going to get upset that this is out of order. This was one of the things I was a little bit worried about. Like, I kind of wish he didn't show this out of order. It doesn't change it, and it doesn't reduce the significance of it. It's just this section here about the no extortion code is a lot more powerful if we take it in context of whether or not he was being charged with extortion. And so that's the significance of this one. And talking about that, showing that and talking about that is one thing, but it's presented in a different order, and I think that's lame. But anyway, yeah, so this call happens at a weird time. It just feels like understanding the timestamps a little bit better. They should have been included in a better order, I think. And I know that he's trying to make sure that we get the narrative to understand what is happening. But this is the kind of thing that I think should have been played in order. And it's actually super common that you have a quote where somebody generally says something like, badges, we don't need no stinking badges. But then the real quote is, you cowboys, you always ask for badge. I don't know what the real quote is, but it's like long. You always ask if we are real federales, and we are not real federales. We don't even have badges. And like, that's the real quote. And it's kind of rambling, and it doesn't fit into one quick little thing. So we all say the easy quote. And this is the kind of thing where there is no way to put this into an easy quote. It is a very long thing that contains a lot of significant pieces of information. So to try to shove it into these quotes, I think it was probably a net negative. Okay, so going through the rest of the time here. So the next significant thing, this is December 10th. We're going to fast forward to December 18th. And this is so basically he said when he was talking to the CEO said you emailed the wrong email, and Ben was like, "Well, why are you getting angry that we emailed the email that was on your website?" And he's like, and he's trying to deflect and everything, and he shows they got a response. At a certain point, the CEO says, "You're talking to a ghost," but there is on I guess there's December 14th is here, and then did I write this correctly? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So we were told in the audio that he sent the email the next day. So if this is 12:10, then this is 12:11. So yeah, this is capturing between 12:11 and 12:18. This is the next one I think is kind of lame. Um, so yeah, so he sends the. We don't see the first email. We see the hey, I'm just following up. We eventually get a response. The response is like very like uh, I don't know, harsh, very very threatening, and but that means that he did get a response. Um, oh no, I'm sorry, I actually got this a little bit wrong. So this is the new email address he was given. So then yeah, he emails the new email address he was given at 12:11. Supposedly on 12:11, and then yeah, and then sends a follow up on the 14th, and then gets the threatening email. Now he says during this that it's like a week later or 2 weeks later. He gives an exact time, but I put 7 days because I think he says a week later they get this response. However, they film their reaction in Mexico, which we're pretty sure didn't happen in 2025. I'm just trying to like, remember I said the hair length. He's starting to get the mullet. I'm pretty sure this was somewhere around um, April. I think is when they were here. I had a hard time like really guessing where this time frame was, but he went for the slacklining competition. He stayed for a little while to like vacation. And my understanding is he wasn't actually like because there was this idea that he had this warrant for missing a court date or that he was dodging a warrant, and that's like not really what happened. He was already in Mexico. But I think that would put it sometime in April of 2026 that they were in Mexico. But they're responding to it in Mexico. So I don't know. I, I I I think maybe they just filmed reacting to it again, just so they could put it in a funny reaction type. But this is one that like really bothered me. Maybe I honestly is just the OCD acting up. I'm just being nitpicky, but this bothered me a lot. Like, oh, so this reaction is not genuine, and that sucks. I guess you're not going to get. I mean, we see this on TV all the time. We see a reality TV or something where the I forgot I had the calculators up. So we see this on TV where the producers in some reality TV show are obviously it's not the first time that they're knocking on the door, but they pretend to open the door and let the producers in, and there's the camera. And so these faked reactions are normal. It's part of life, and maybe I shouldn't be so upset. But this was really annoying to me. So yeah, I just put the response, which appears to be in Mexico, appears to be way after the 18th. So maybe they got this and they weren't filming, and they're like, hey, let's just film another reaction. But I didn't like that. That bothered me when I was going through the numbers or through numbers through the dates. I can't do numbers like, or I mean I can do numbers. I can't do like financials. I'm not. Um, I am going to lose my mind going through numbers. Okay, so there was quote part three extras. So this is what I was talking about on the Patreon, but he talks about this in the interview on a couple of Brickheads. So when I was mentioning that the timing may not matter for when the no extortion code was made for the most significant part of this, is that what is being I don't know if the word alleged. What's being hinted at right now is that the warrant included the word extortion, and it was signed with the understanding of extortion, but extortion was off the table, and it's been off the table for 2 months because it was off the table on December 10th. And that's not a revelation for me. He literally says this. So Reckless Ben literally says that. That's not something I figured out from doing this exercise, but it is more apparent now how much time has passed between these two events. And I know I'm leaving this white space without, I'm not putting this on a calendar so you can watch this weeks fly by, but it's very clear that these are not like, it's 2026 now. Like it's another year. It's 2 months later, and it is, Happy New Year. In fact, there is a weird little event. Not to be too crazy, but Reckless Ben has been doxxed about 100 times. His birthday's in December. I think, if I remember correctly, he's 29 here, and he's 30 here. Like he's a year older in between these two events. Yes, it's 2 months away, but like he's had a birthday, the new year, woohoo! It's not close together, and that's a pretty important point. I didn't capture the part that said extortion. What I captured was this little section that said, and I think this is going to become a thing, delayed notification. 90 days out would have been, pull my calendar. So we're starting in February 2nd. And '28. Let's just count the weeks. It's getting late enough that I need a little bit of help with this. So 90 by 7 will be almost 13 weeks. Let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So May 4th. Hey, Star Wars Day. Right around May 4th. So maybe May 3rd, May 2nd. Is when the 90 days would have been up. Now, I don't know if that starts on the date it's actually executed or the day of this. But, okay, maybe it's smart. Maybe it's May 5th. I don't know. Revenge of the 5th. Although Revenge of the 5th is the day after Cinco de Mayo. Let's see. I don't think the extortion portion is in here. Extortion portion. Yeah, it's not in this one either. And so, I had actually captured this one from part 3, and this one I captured from, I don't know where I captured this. I think I found this on Reddit or something. I don't remember. I captured this from another spot. But it's mentioned in the extras. I don't know how else to say it, like Patreon video. So in part 3, we see this. And I do think this is another case where he meant to blur some stuff out and he didn't. But anyway, doesn't matter. Too late. So this here is, I've got my calculator left open again. This here is the execution of it. So Google's like, okay, I acted on it. And when was this? Yes, 11th is when it happened. So this must not be sent to Reckless Ben because he's not supposed to be notified for 90 days. So I don't know where this went to. Maybe this went to the police with the data dump. I'm not sure. But this puts one of the things I'm just want to really focus on here. This happened before they arrived in American Fork. Not when they arrived in Provo to talk to the corporate, talk to the because they just want to talk to someone at corporate, and it's been said a few times that they didn't know who came outside. They didn't realize who they were talking to at first. They thought they were going to just get somebody at corporate. They didn't know they were going to get the CEO. So that's been said a few times. I don't know if it's been confirmed 100%, but that's been said a few times. But anyway, so other than going to the corporate headquarters, they have not gone to American Fork yet. They don't have the lawsuits against the individuals yet. And this is already taking place. Like this whole, I'm going to call it a scheme. This whole scheme is already ramping up and getting to a fever pitch. Because if this, as is being, like the accusation here is that there was a lie told to get this warrant. That's what people are starting to accuse the cop of doing, and so that's a significant thing. This is before they showed up in American Fork and had any concept of like a corrupt police department. And he does mention, Reckless Ben does mention in a couple of videos where he's like, I didn't think I needed a lawyer, and I talked to some people who are like, oh, it's not a significant thing. You may not want to spend all that money on it. And then he's like, well, then I found out how corrupt it was, so I hired a lawyer. And like he said that a few times, and he does say it in this latest Patreon video. But that was happening, and he didn't know it at another police department. And there was this, because part 3 shows a bunch of stuff like her calling him a fool. The police officer calls him a fool and says, does this guy make money on these secret little videos? And I didn't find anything credible in these silly little videos. Like that happens. That stuff is like said. There's like obviously a bias. And so I think the word corrupt has like lost all meaning lately, like just in general. And if anybody we disagree with is corrupt, is like, I'm worried that's what the word is turning into. But obviously she was biased in the footage. And you see a couple cases of that. I may have even no, I didn't capture the words, but yeah, there's clearly some issue and clearly some bias and potentially really bad things if there was a lie told, which is what people are starting to claim. And then yeah, it's a huge that they went to get this for what ended up being what do they call it, interruption of aggravated commercial obstruction. So to prove that you were standing in a lobby and you refused to leave, we need all of your emails. We need and anything in your Google Drive. Oh man, a lot of people are saying this, but like, move off of Google. And I actually have a big complaint. There used to be a tool called Skiff, and I loved it. It was an email service, but they had a ton of like Google Drive competitive features that were unique. They were very unique to the platform, and I really liked it. And they're especially good if you're a programmer. Like they just were very familiar to the other tools you've used. And Skiff has got bought and then basically shut down. And so now I just kind of tolerate other solutions. So I really miss it. But yeah, try to find replacements to what you do. And if you can't find replacements, find backups. So I'm going to make my pitch early. If you stream or upload videos to YouTube, also upload them to another platform, especially Rumble is awesome. Because even if you have a great reason that you're going straight to YouTube, or YouTube is, you're making money on YouTube, your partner, whatever it is, when the hammer comes down, your stuff is gone. Or they might train on your stuff, or they might put a little blurry mark on the top right corner of your video. But the other platforms are not going to do that. And so you have a valid copy somewhere that you can point people to. And if your stuff gets taken from you, it's already somewhere else. But that is that's how I joke about the right time to replace Adobe is 20 years ago and the next best time is today. The right time to replace Google is 20 years ago, but the right time is today. And so if you have Google Docs that you're relying on, start to move them over to another solution. And if you have Google Docs, they're trying to strong arm you into paying. So it's not, it's very quickly not becoming an excuse that it's free. They are trying very hard to strong arm people into paying. And they're forcing their AI into everything. And, there's all kinds of complaints with it. So start to back your stuff up to another platform and then start to migrate to the platform. And you're going to have a little bit of pain here and there. Google Slides are easy to share and easy to use. I get that. Google Sheets are, they're like middle of the road enough to do a lot of very powerful things. They're exactly in the middle of the powerhouse that you need for whatever you're doing with spreadsheets, that they are super useful. I get that. But there are other options out there, and even ones that seem crazy, like OpenOffice and whatnot, are still out there. So you can always start to move your things one at a time, and eventually you'll be off the platform. I know it can feel like you're locked in, but you are not, and you can get off the platform. So anyway, one of those is also stream to Rumble. It's a way to get started. And what the first thing for me was moving my docs, because I do a lot of writing, and the collaboration and edit anywhere of Google Docs was for 15 years, maybe longer than that, was vital to me. And then I found another solution, and then I found Skiff, and I loved Skiff, and then Skiff got shut down, so I found another solution. And I have done the migration a few times. It's not that hard. In fact, I got so good at it that I am able to do some other things, kind of around the house, moving files. So I've actually done some pretty advanced video editing stuff by just, using a one of the drive alternatives to like plop something here. And then I know by the time I walk to the other computer that it's there. And I don't, I already have my large file transfer figured out. So anyway, yeah, Google is scary. That's something we're learning from part 3, and changing over is not as daunting as it sounds. You just one step at a time. That's all you got to do, is one step at a time. And if you have to keep your Google Gmail around, especially because you've registered accounts to it and whatnot, okay, fine. You can go through and only use it for certain things and limit the kind of emails you get. And you can go in and try to delete your history. I know they'll still have, for compliance reasons, they'll still have copies, but you can, eventually those will expire. I think there's a retention period, because like we're a random person with a Google account is not like in the financial industry, so it's not like you're going to get like crazy retention rules. Anyway, I'm going off on the crazy IT stuff. This is the stuff I think about. This is it, and it doesn't. It's not about this story. It's like anything I would be thinking about. This is stuff I would be talking about. But you can keep your Gmail account, and you can make it a little more secure. You can also like forward it. You can get it to forward to other accounts, and then you're no longer storing anything there. But you can still use it as your your single sign-on for other things. So you have it as your account. Okay, so then we get back to where we started. So this lineup thing and the maniacal laugh, this all happens on March 2nd. And this actually explains something that we see in the body cam later. There's a point in time where JJ is on the phone with the CEO, and the CEO is going, I promised myself I would do this, and I haven't done it yet, but we're gonna. I guess I'll start doing it. So it's Almond, and his brother Cashew, and Brazil Nut is Brandon, and Joshua Chestnut. So Chestnut. So they're the nuts. Those are their code names from now on. The CEO is Almond. So Almond is doing this lineup, and sometime later, oh no, it was Brandon Chestnut, and then what was Joshua Johnson? Was he Brazil Nut? I can't remember what I had for him. I have to look it up. I had a nut for him. So anyway, JJ and Almond are on the phone when the police are like fishing for things to arrest people with, and there's the whole it's fake, it's all fake, and this can't be okay. You have to arrest them for something. That whole thing, that was done full well with the knowledge that he was already in the process of trying to get um, trying to get Reckless Ben arrested for something that happened all the way back in December. So we're 3 months out, 2 days shy of 3 months out when he arrives in American Fork. Here we're a little bit, about a week shy of 3 months out, and he's still just trying to get this guy arrested, just to make him shut up, like or whatever his intentions are. But this is a scheme that takes place before part two. And that's, I think that was not super clear in part three. And then we go through all the stuff that happens in part two. I did capture something that was actually quite insane. So part of the police reports, or like filings, and I didn't understand, but there's this disposition here. So that's where I put the date here, because I think that's when this was like last updated or something. So during the drug search, or on the day of the drug search, is the day that this Provo case like gets updated. And this was a thing I was confused about, is the when reported didn't seem to match up with certain things, because when reported is so weird. But this when reported, I don't get this. Okay, this doesn't make any sense to me. I now have even more questions. So on December 10th, we looked at the footage from the lobby, and it like ended at 11:18. I guess the phone call happened at 11:19, which I don't think is exactly right. So maybe the timestamps on the lobby footage is wrong, or maybe this is wrong. But you see him make the phone call before the footage ends. I don't know. Whatever. So 11:19 is when it's reported, but she doesn't talk to him until 15:30 something, 15:30. So what does reported mean? And then why does occurred between happen all the way past reported? So these dates just don't make sense to me. And anyway, so this disposition, which I don't know if that means that she updated the paperwork or, whatever. But this disposition matches the 9th. Well, that just happens to be the day they get the drug search. I do not think they're related, but the scheme is ongoing during the drug search. Now this timeline, I believe, was in the Patreon. No, I don't think it was. I think this was somewhere else. I don't remember where this came from, but there was a timeline that Reckless Ben was talking about, and it's basically going over a lot of these dates that I'm already talking about. So like, I didn't know about this. So 2/9 CEO contacts Dora requesting to pursue charges. So there's a complaint taken, but they don't decide to pursue charges till the 9th, and then they get the warrant the next day. Yeah, I'd have to understand this timeline a bit more, because I don't know where this comes from. And then there's the thing about the civil suit, which I'm about to talk about. I'm not going to go into detail anymore. Then there's the events that happened on the 11th, and I actually have these a little bit out of order. But basically, Sheldon gets arrested for the stupidest thing ever. And this is a part 3 thing, because he talks about obstruction. That's kind of what leads into some other part of the video. And then there's the section of the raid, and then after the raid, and after a very long interrogation and late at night, which would end up being 8:00. The interrogation ends, and he's finally like arrested, and put into the car. And so that all happens on the 11th, and that kind of does the end of like, oh, this is what happened in American Fork. Like, there is one more thing we know about, which is when they went back to the police station and asked them to serve the papers. And I still think there's, I don't know if the police served the papers or somebody else actually did the physical service. But so I still have a question there. But Doesn't matter. We know that that would have been on March 13th. So there is another little stop in here, but I don't have any documentation to prove it. I just have like people have said that on interviews. Okay, so then we get to 327. Okay, so what happens on March 27th? This is a weird thing that lines up. I don't fully understand this, but there's an arrest warrant that goes out, and this is from Provo. I guess this is an arrest warrant from the what was it called? Aggravated disruption of commerce or something stupid. Some crime that doesn't even sound real. And then like I'm just wondering, if you can get arrested for that, then why does Walmart have to play, 80s music to get the teenagers to stop hanging out outside? Like, if that's a crime, why isn't it used to solve real problems? I have trouble believing that. That's just a me thing. That's me not knowing enough. I'm dumb, and here's my question: why not use it to get the kids who would be playing hacky sack if they're cool, but now they're just like standing around on their iPhones and probably shouting, horrible slurs that we could have never thought of as kids. Like, how do you not get the bad kids out if this is a real crime? Why is it not used to get the bad kids out that that harass people and cause problems? Okay, well, ignoring my complete lack of, or my complete ignorance here, let's go back. So what's the other thing that happens on March 27th is the Gorman case gets filed. So the complaint gets entered, and my understanding is they had to do some kind of good faith conversation or some kind of mediation of some sort before they could officially file this case. And this is what I was looking at when we first started here. I was like, wait, that was in Utah. I actually thought this was in Oregon, and I guess I just have not noticed this whole time that it's in Utah. That's surprising to me because the actual event happened in Oregon. So I don't understand. But yeah, this is the Gorman case against BAM, and that gets filed on March 27th. That's actually very important because we're going to see something happen. There is some other things that happen, like a discovery gets delivered in May 13th. And then there is some leaked body cam footage showing a call from an LA, I think it's from a police officer in LA, basically saying, hey, we wouldn't pursue charges for what you're looking for charges for. And so this is the American Fork police officer saying, oh yeah, we don't know anything about that. That's from another city. And then they kind of talk through it a bit. And he's like, oh yeah, it's kind of the same problems that you're having. And they talk a bit about like, oh, there's a cop from LA saying that he got a call from Almond, and Almond was like, hey, you should arrest him for this thing. And so there's a discussion. This is on BAM Sucks. And so there's a discussion here that doesn't seem relevant until we're starting to look at this timeline. So it seems like maybe the first scheme wasn't getting enough traction, so he called in for a second scheme. And so assuming the call happened, within the days leading up to May 26th, the call, what is it, 24th, 25th, is when Almond calls. I don't know. But it's like, what happened? Was the first scheme not good enough? He had to come up with another scheme. It just seems weird. So now this is a bit more interesting. But guess what happens the next day? Did I write that down wrong? Oh, I got this in the wrong order. Hold on. That would explain a little bit. So part 1 is released on YouTube. Let me just double check I got that right. Okay, so before that call, oh, interesting. Yeah, so part 1 was released on YouTube on May 21st, and part 2 came out on Patreon on May 21st. And I don't know that I wrote when part 2 came out on YouTube. I don't know exactly the date. Probably the 30th. Yeah, yeah, there it is. So part two comes out on YouTube on the 30th, but it's out on Patreon, a little while earlier. Okay, so then, yeah, so that's on the 21st, and then on the 26th. So that must have nudged Almond to call and say, hey, let's come up with another scheme. Man. Um, like this here, he said they normally wouldn't pursue it. That's a huge thing. And it's just been not a huge thing that people have noticed. Okay, so let's go back to March 27th. What happened on March 27th? Okay, the Gorman file their case. What happens on May 27th? BAM filed their case against the victim, Brian Mansell, Reckless Ben, and Victor, and then name a whole bunch of does. Or they don't name, but they include a bunch of does that they don't name. They filed their case on the 27th. It gets granted on the 28th, and Cashew, he announces it like on a couple of Brickhead's interview, and like nobody knows anything about this enough to ask questions, because you can see plainly, and so this is Cashew sharing his screen, and you can see plainly who the defendants are. Notice that there is no Gorman in this list. There's nobody named Gorman. It is exactly 1 month plus a day, because they had to get it approved. So the complaint is filed, and the TRO is, or the TRO is basically approved on the 28th. And he's announcing it on stream, and he says a copy of the TRO was sent to Crystal's counsel within the last hour, and frankly, if she was aware of such, she may as well be in contempt of the court's order as we speak for showing up. So 2 months plus a day from the Gorman suing BAM. BAM targets them with a TRO on a case that they're not named on, and on the same day admits that it was to shut them up. That is a big deal, and you don't see that until you put it on the timeline. This, I personally believe, allegedly, I don't know, what word am I supposed to say? And in 100%, in my opinion, that this is retaliation. This was intended to be retaliation from the beginning. Nothing about the TRO was included without the added rider that they wanted to shut up someone else who sued them for something else. That is my opinion on that. That this is an admission that the TRO was specifically to retaliate against someone that sued them, and they didn't, for whatever reason, didn't name them on the suit, but it was to retaliate against them. Now, I know that there's also this, let's stop the videos from coming out, there's all that, but they exclusively say they wanted to shut her up. And people have been giving Cashew the benefit of the doubt, but there are two events that happen in this interview with a couple of Brickheads that are not innocent. They are not the work of a moral person. This is one of them. The other one is when he laughs at the thought of her dying. And I know it was the kind of thing that was more of like, okay, yeah, it was kind of a passing joke and whatever. But he spends time talking about how bad it is to make death threats, and then he laughs at somebody dying. Like they're not. He does immoral things on this interview, and yeah, this is one where you get this with the timeline once you see it. They filed this on the 27th, 1 month or 2 months after the case against them was filed, and it targeted the Gormans, and they said it outright. He actually says it at least 3 times, because there's a point in time where he says in a very, and this is what it's talking about with like long quotes, you can't really condense them, and if you do, like, you risk a lot, you risk losing a lot. There's another quote where he talks about them, and there's another quote where he talks about like and all of his associates, and he like implies them heavily. He says that it is targeting the Gormans. And that is this is where I always make that joke of like, this can't be okay. You have to be able to do something. This can't be okay. Like the part where Almond is on the phone saying, I don't want to associate them with the Allman Brothers, though. I was worried about that at one point. Allman of the Nuts, Allman is saying on the phone in one of the videos, "This can't be okay. You have to be able to do something about this." Well, this is a case where this is extremely immoral. I don't know if it's illegal or not, but it's incredibly immoral. This is not okay. This is horrifying that somebody would do this. They are trying to damage people to hurt them in a case, a different case against them. They're trying to interfere with that other case. It's unbelievable, and they admit to it. And it's like that's just my opinion on it. Like I don't know if it's illegal or not, but I do know that that's insanely immoral. That is exceptionally immoral, and it gets back to what is so upsetting about all this. You have people working for a corporation doing things that no other corporation would get away with. The people would be flipping out, and they would bend over backwards to get people's sympathies back. And this is one of them. This is just insanely immoral. And this is like, do something about this, corporate, do something about this. And they're not. And so people are super upset. This is a hard one for me to mentally get around, because I no longer trust any of the other reasons. So anything else here, like, were they really even trying to shut Ben up? Or was he the patsy to get this to happen? Like, all of a sudden, any other fact I can no longer rely on. I can't rely on any other fact because they flat out admit that it was targeting her. That's just insane. And I did capture the hearing, the ex parte hearing, and I wanted to capture the timestamp here. It's been said that this is after hours. I think I made a note of that, but I actually don't know for that. I just know that he signed it like the next day. They did this in a hurry, and people have been upset that the TRO was like rubber stamped. Well, yeah, it looks like the timeline kind of matches up with that. Okay, so then the very next day, I thought this was important. So the very next day, there's the interview that a couple of Brickheads do with Almond, and he's in his red shirt, and he says those things about integrity that get included in the in part 3. And then the next day, I guess I didn't realize this was the case, so this is still surprising to me. But I guess the next day after this is when part 2 drops. Oh, to YouTube. So it's already in Patreon, so people knew about it. But yeah, YouTube gets to see it on the 30th. And then, yeah, a couple days later, we find out that they're trying to take down videos because we get the response from Patreon. I want to highlight one more thing. Now people have picked this complaint apart. They've picked the TRO apart. They have picked the whole court thing apart. We've talked about every filing. I get excited every time there's a new filing, and I go crazy and I put it in the thing, and everybody's like, no, that's not a significant thing. That's totally procedural. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's a new thing in the filing. And we've picked it all apart. But at the time that this was being announced in this interview, nobody knew anything about it. Nobody looked it up. In fact, the couple of Brickheads people, I don't know if M&R, because he's the one in the Sith colors here. It's kind of funny. I think he's sitting in a car, but he is in the dark room. But then you got these guys. So I don't know if M&R had this question, but I know that these two did, and they were asking like, "Oh, can we see this? Where do we go to see this?" And he's like, "Oh, there's the case number. You can go look it up." And they're like, "Well, where do we look it up?" And that's not exactly what they say, but like that's the exchange. People wanted to go look at it to find out what it was, but nobody knew anything about it, and nobody were realizing these little details. Even all the way to here on June 2nd, when we get the Bricks and Minifigs Can Stuff It video. We get nobody knows anything about the lawsuit. Like, nobody's figured it out yet. Like, I mean, there's people, I'm sure there were YouTubers looking at it, but the general people were not dissecting it. And so it's really like after this point that we start to understand that. And I don't think there's been a definitive yes or no. Was the TRO as it is like shown to them, and then it says take things down? And a lot of people have been talking about this concept of prior restraint, and like you can't take down the old stuff or something like that. But like, and there was that question of like, okay, well, what videos were taken down? Well, we know that Patreon, I guess, was asked to take stuff down, and they said no. Now, was that a threatening letter? Was that they were served? So I don't know what the word would be. Were served a lawsuit? I don't know, and I don't think people know exactly what they received. It hasn't been like widely talked about. But they said no, and it does lead into that. Like, okay, well, then there was, some of the videos weren't taken down. So we get to some weird stuff in the timeline. So Fox 5 DC does an interview with Reckless Ben in, people keep saying Fox News. This is a local affiliate, and it probably was rerun on all the other Fox affiliates, and it may have been run on their big, national Fox News. But typically the local stuff, in my experience, doesn't mean that Fox News ran it. It means that a local news station ran it. it's not the same thing. And so you get a lot of like national cases where if you know the local affiliate, you'll actually get more information faster if you can figure out which one it is, and then just kind of keep the refresh button going. But anyway, so a DC Fox affiliate interviews Reckless Ben, and then the next day, DC Fox affiliate interviews Almond, who still curls his mustache and is now wearing the blue shirt. So there is, in part 3, there are clips that go back and forth between red shirt Almond and blue shirt Almond. And these are, how many days apart? 6 days apart? How many days are in May? May has 31 days. So 29, 30, 31, 32, or 1, 2. So 5 days later. I guess it depends if you count it. No, not 5. 7 days later would be the 4th. Okay, so yeah, there's Almond here in blue shirt doing this interview. And so I said giving Leos back. I think he might have used the word making them whole. I didn't. This particular interview is not very memorable compared to the others, so I don't remember exactly what's discussed. But I think this might be the making them whole statement, because I know there were other streamers, news things that kept saying, "Oh, Brian's been made whole." Like they said it in the past tense. And it was unclear if they were reacting to one of these interviews, or it was unclear if they were reacting to the GoFundMe reaching a certain amount. Yeah, there's this thing, made whole became a phrase right around here. And then a few days later, on the 9th, you get the my final message. And then this one's not significant. And we actually heard this in the interview today with a couple of Brickheads, where he's like, oh yeah, I was just working on more things. So they're like, oh, you're going to be able to talk tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I'll just work on it a little bit more. So I guess one of the funny things, which I thought was like hilarious, he put 2 Google Docs, so untitled Google Docs next to each other. He's like, look at this one. No, look at this one. No, look at this one. To like be able to do this side-by-side comparison. I don't even think they're the same font size. This was funny to me. The windows aren't like even, but he's like doing the illustration. I've got lots of evidence. He's got no evidence. Which one are they going to believe? But I thought it was kind of funny that he included a date by accident, and so we know when this happened. Yeah, I guess he's been editing in anticipation for when the TRO gets removed for a very long time, including like the day after he got served. No, I think he may have got served on the 7th or 8th, but then he made this video. We do know that the GoFundMe went down for a period of time, and I think that was on the 9th, but I don't remember exactly. I should find out that day and put that in here. And then another thing that happened on the 10th, So the day after my final message, you've got the police show up at the dad's house. So Almond and Cashew's dad had put out a Facebook post, which I don't really like to talk about the Facebook stuff, but he claimed about somebody shot out his window. So then I think specifically BJC Live Show. I don't know if anyone else requested it, but she went over the body cam footage and the reports, and basically it seems that they just conclude, oh, it might have been construction, or it probably was construction. So they don't conclude that somebody shot out the window and that they need to go find a sniper. Um, but this body cam footage also happens. So the incident is investigated on the 10th, and I think it's supposed to have happened like an hour before, so somewhere around an hour and a half before, based on what was heard in the call and the footage. And then it's actually the 14th that the Facebook post gets looked at. So it is posted about 4 days later, and it gets noticed, and everybody looks at it. Now, I don't know if that's when the post went up or that's when it was noticed. Maybe the post went up on the 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere around there. But it was noticed on the 14th, and then sometime later something happened. Okay, so then the last significant thing, which has been talked to death today, is on the 7th, is when Reckless Ben's video hit Patreon, and he made the challenge about the chicken dance. And also on the 7th, there was this ad run on Facebook or Meta for Bricks and Minifigs with a guy in a chicken suit. And it was reported pretty widely that they were watching, like they had some kind of like watch party or something at Bricks and Minifigs. And so I don't know if those reports are true, but that's basically a rumor that circulated a lot on the 7th and the 8th, so past couple days. So the fact that they put out this guy in a chicken suit is suspicious. However, when I say they, I am a little wary that this is BAM. Because if some troll came in and pretended to be BAM and paid the money, I think they still would have run the ad. I don't know what kind of verification they're doing, and I don't know which of these links that you see are, oh yeah, give me your link and I'll include it, or this is the account that requested it. I don't know how much is attached to the account and how much is attached to, oh yeah, make sure you put a link to your social medias. Make sure you put a link to your website, and then that's just a field that's filled out. I have worked on a very small social media app that had a very similar feature, and if somebody went in and spoofed it, so as a company, we could have figured it out pretty easily. We also didn't really care. If somebody bought advertising space, and we weren't going to go through and say, other than objectionable material, which it would go through some automatic moderation, and then it generally is still, somebody still had to approve it, so they actually click on it. So I don't know anything about their ad platform. I know zero about it. I just know some of the basics. And in my experience, if somebody paid for something to advertise somebody else's product, we wouldn't have questioned it. Unless there was a big reason to be super suspicious. So this looks legit. This looks real, but I personally cannot be certain. You would need an actual expert to look at this, or for the company to actually confirm that they ran this ad. But there is several detractors. I say the word detractors because there are, the popular term is bot. Like, don't be someone that just repeats what you're told. There are bots out there that are just doing what they're told, and there are double agents. It sounds cooler than it is. There's people out there pretending to be on one side just so they can gather information and names. And we know, I say people have started to notice that there are like some suspicious names just kind of lurking around, and then they'll say something, and it's like, so you didn't watch the video. that's weird that you would say the thing you said because you must not have watched the video. Um, and so those, there's bad. I will just say bad actors. There's also detractors, people that disagree in a wide spectrum. And one of the things about the detractors is they tend to not understand what people who are hooked on this story actually think. And I'm going to say something I think is true. I don't know if it's 100% true. I think most people think a lot of the things that Ben did were stupid. They were dumb and unnecessary. And I even mentioned some of the editing today that I thought was dumb and unnecessary. But he got himself in trouble by saying and doing some dumb things. A lot of people hold those opinions. I think most people do. But the detractors don't understand that. They think that they are unique in saying, well, Ben's an idiot. And what's funny is then they get the reaction from a lot of people that are like, yeah, probably so. However, I can't believe that corporate sued the victim. It's like the response. I can't believe the corporate did this. I can't believe the corporate did that. Like, they don't expect people to agree with them because they don't actually understand where we're at. And one of them is this timeline. I have seen multiple detractors say that there's nothing special about the chicken because they're not aware of the chicken dance. I mean, they might be aware of the chicken dance, but they're not aware of the chicken dance scene. And it's not like a single scene, it's like a bunch of really funny clips put together. But showing, and I don't actually have any way to verify a lot of the places that he was at. So, like, we know about the radio tower. We have kind of a guess of when that happened. And we know that parts of this were like recorded early, and we know parts of the chicken dance is recorded on the radio tower. We know that there's a scene where it looks like they're near the radio tower, but Tyler's there. And we know that Tyler didn't go to the radio tower. In fact, in an interview, he said he refused to go. So when did that happen? Well, those cliffs that they were sitting on, or rocks that they were sitting on, were graffitied, which looked a lot like the graffiti at the little water slide thing that's kind of a natural river that goes through a tunnel, or a natural stream that goes through a tunnel. And we knew about that one, which happened during a drought, which was really weird, but whatever. So the graffiti kind of matches. So maybe that happened then. And so he knew what he was going to say during a lot of different events that happened kind of far apart. So getting the timelines for those would be kind of cool too. But anyway, I don't have the exact dates for those. There's a lot of stuff. It's really hard to pin down an exact date. For example, the day that they went to the radio tower, there's 3 dates that would fit, and one of them is the night before the protest, one of them is the night of the protest, one of them is the night after the protest. They fit the best, and the night after the protest fits the best, except that it feels like the video of him being pulled over by the police and be like, oh no, I just got to YouTube and I got pulled over. It feels like that one wouldn't fit with that timeline, but maybe it does. Who knows? So we don't know exactly when those happened. We have just a general date. So we know that there's little clips here, but they were all recorded at different times, and it seems to be pretty far apart. And I think the very last scene where he's in the water, I think that's Mexico, but I have no way to prove it. But I think that is during the Mexico trip, which means that it's a lot older than we think it was, the chicken dance idea. So anyway, this was something I my brain had to do to understand things. And I did explain there's a lot of stuff missing that I'd really like to add in, but this is extremely time consuming to get this into a spot where we know that this is this thing and it's related to this thing and this is where it comes from. So it is pretty time consuming. But I want to keep this together and keep referring back to this, and I might take screenshots and put them on my posts, just to say we know that this happened on this date, and we know that this happened on this date. And if this happened between those two things or on the same day as this thing, is there a reason they happened together? And so it is. There's certain things that is absolutely just wild. One of the things I did not mention is both of these interviews with a couple of brickheads. I took this picture for a reason. I'm 99% that Cashew saw Reckless Ben come on the screen. I'm 99% sure that he saw that. And I don't think that they asked the question. I think they asked a similar question, but I think it was based on somebody else's post or comment. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the interview where they did the Gormans first, and then they did Cashew, and then they did Reckless Ben. And then this one, I'm pretty sure they did Almond, and then they did Reckless Ben. There was a time in between because there's a face that doesn't show up in these. So the kicker, Rod Blankenship, I think is his name, Rod the Collector, um, was on, and I remember distinctly when I saw this interview, like the first little clip I saw was him saying, "I don't want to be on the stream right now." Or I don't want to be on the stream when they come on, and I think he was really talking about Ben and Victor. And I don't understand. I didn't understand that statement. I still to this day I don't know why he said that. But I know that they had other guests on. But these were long streams with a lot of people on, and they all came on like on the same day. And weird things happened, like them getting the TRO live. The Gormans got like after their interview was over, they would have gotten this announcement. So it's just absolutely crazy that these things happened when they happened. Now I didn't go into all that detail on these ones, but I did in my Twitter posts. I went into like super detail on the crazy things that happened in these two interviews. Um, but anyway, all that being said, yeah, but putting these into perspective with the timeline it tells the story different. And so, yeah, I'll continue to refer back to these. So, yeah, I know that was mostly an exercise in me like satisfying my autism, but that being said, I have no defense for it. But this helps me understand things. I'm hoping it helps other people understand it too. I also just like this tool, so me just kind of playing around and pressing buttons and copying and pasting things. It's just because I like Excalidraw. But yeah, this is how I understand things. I guess this gets you a little bit of a view into how the old noggin works when these pieces of information come out. And I do try when we see things, I try to place them in time, especially interviews, because there's plenty of times where we've gotten interviews with Reckless Ben that have happened like before, and the time frame of when it happened before is actually super important. Like the Brandon Buckingham interview was during the time where Ben could not make new statements. The interview was released while the TRO was in effect, but the interview was clearly recorded before the TRO went into effect. And but when I say clearly, you have to watch for the cues because they never said the date. Um, I think he talks about the Provo court in it. I think that it actually happens around the time he goes into the Provo court, which I didn't capture that date. I'd like to, but I did not. But I'm 99% sure that's somewhere around April. But anyway, that all that being said, this has been a lot of fun to finally be able to show off my little creation. And I will continue to update it and refer back to it. And I guess I'll end it by saying peace.